Well, we're having to climb uphill in sand, very thick sand, but it's not very comfortable to deal with. Alright, so today I'm at Camp Helen near Rosemary Beach in Florida, and it's 182 acres of state-owned land, and there's some beautiful trails on here. We're about to walk into one, but we're right here by the Gulf, and you can see part of my view here. There's a big marsh that leads out to the ocean on the Gulf side, and apparently one of the state rangers at the park, real nice guy named Pete, told us a whole story about how this property came to be a state park, and it's a pretty cool story actually. So if you're interested, I'm sure there's a website set up for Camp Helen, but I'll write a bit about it on the blog post as well. But it's a pretty cool story, and this place apparently has a lot of different kinds of birds, so I might even be doing some wildlife photography. I'm hoping to see an alligator possibly, which I'm gonna turn the camera around. This seems like the proper spot to where we might see an alligator. We're gonna have to keep our eyes open. But for now, there is a trail which the ranger Pete told us is a whole trail that has these trees that are kind of create this tunnel and kind of swarming in over the trail. And that is probably gonna make a pretty cool photograph. So I'm gonna go check that out, see if I can make something of it. The sky is still really bad today. There's no clouds really. So I'm gonna be focused on the details. As far as gear, shooting with my Fuji X-T2. Primary lens is gonna be the 16-55 2.8 with a circular polarizer, and that's gonna be my setup. So I'll turn the camera back on if anything else interesting happens, and we'll go from there. Well, we're having to climb uphill in sand, very thick sand, but it's not very comfortable to deal with because it's almost like quicksand. My foot like disappears into the sand. Normally I wouldn't bring my whole backpack on a day trip like this, but since I'm around sand and salt water, I don't want the sand to get in my gear. Alright, so I don't know if you can see over there, there's another photographer doing his thing with a girl in a bikini, and my dad and I hiked over a mile through thick sand to get to this one spot with this like broken down pier. I was gonna try a long exposure, and then of course I get here and there's another photographer over there with a model shooting her in a bathing suit. You can't blame the guy, but at the same time, I don't know how long they're gonna be there, and photography etiquette says let them finish, but photography anxiety says go shoot anyway and try to Photoshop them out. So I'm gonna wait around a little bit to see what happens, see if he might move down the beach a little bit, but we'll continue letting him do his thing, and we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll notice that I have a tripod standing here and he'll be nice and let me get a quick shot. But there's also an inlet right over here that's pretty cool, coming in from the ocean, and it's kind of creating a little bit of an S-curve out to this inlet over here. So that might make an interesting composition if I can frame that correctly. So I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do yet, but either way, whether I get a photo or not, it's a beautiful place, and I'm definitely enjoying myself on a beautiful day. And it's a private beach here, so it's owned by a state park, and it's very during the week there's just nobody here. It's all kind of lined off all the way around us unless you take the long trail here. So you can see there's just nobody here. There's a couple of people over there that came here in a kayak, and then just nobody. You can see way out there, there's people by the hotels, but it's all lined off. No one can get here unless you hike the trail. So I'm just waiting to shoot over there because I really want that shot. The clouds are actually starting to appear a little bit. Nothing too great, but with a long exposure, it might get me some streaking to at least add to the leading line out to the ocean. So we'll see. I'm gonna try to set up for a shot now that they're actually in the water, and we'll see what I can pull off, unless he tries to jump into my shot. We'll see. All right, so I found a composition. I tried getting in the pier, kind of in between the legs of it, but there's a big piece of wood right in front of the actual water, so I can't see out to the horizon. So I've chosen kind of this composition where I'm putting the pier in the right third and shooting out to the ocean. I got my X-T2. I'm bracketing 3 exposures. That's kind of my composition. I don't know if you can see. Bracketing 3 exposures on ISO 100, which is the low setting on the X-T2. Got my shutter speed on auto and shooting at f11 with a circular polarizer on to just really get some extra detail in the clouds, since there's just a couple of them. And I'm focusing about 1/3 of the way into the scene. I'm gonna take my first shot and we'll see what happens. I don't know if this is gonna be a good photo or not, but I'm gonna take it anyway and I'll find out later. I'm gonna it's important when you're at a scene like this and you don't really know what the outcome is going to be until you get back to the computer to kind of work your scene. And what I mean by that is take, you know, we're shooting digital images on a card, so you don't have film to where you're limited to a number of shots. So, you know, work your way around the scene, get a couple of different angles, because if you just take one, you might not like it when you get back to the computer. So give yourself options. That's very important to do, because I think this scene has a lot of potential. I just don't know what's going to be the best composition. So I'm gonna give myself options to play with for post-processing. And I'm also shooting in brackets. I probably don't have to, but I'm going to anyway, because again, I want to give myself options and I want to capture all the light in the scene. So I'm gonna go shoot and I'll talk to you guys in a minute. All right, so I set up with a new composition. I'm shooting in between these two. My tripod luckily gets high enough where I can shoot over this piece of angled board. I'm shooting straight out, but the issue is the waves are coming in and it's making the front leg of my tripod sink into the sand. So I normally bring a couple of things to stop that, but I think I'm gonna use a seashell or something like this, a little sand dollar. I'm gonna try to remedy this the old-fashioned way. All right, so that should work like a charm. So what I did now, since the last time I talked to you guys, I had a circular polarizer on there a minute ago. I now put a 9-stop ND filter on as well. So I'm stacking my filters. So I have a 2-stop circular polarizer and then a 9-stop ND filter. So that's gonna give me 11 stops of light blocking the light. That way I can get a nice smooth water and some movement in the water, and maybe even the clouds in this really bright sunny environment. That's how you get interesting photos, is you have to know how to really leverage the tools in your camera bag. And filters are a great way to get interesting shots when the light isn't very good. So this is basically what I'm working with here. I don't know how much of this you can see, but I have my teeny tiny focus point since the new firmware update on this little log right there, or the little spear sticking out of the water there. And I'm just, you know, nice simple composition, but it might give me something cool. Probably gonna shoot vertical in a minute so I can get the waves coming. So we'll see how this works, and I'll talk to you guys in just a minute. I'm blocking 11 stops of light, and I'm just having a great time finally finding some good shots with this. It's a very simple shot, very simple composition, but my portfolio needs more of that. You know, I look at my portfolio sometimes and I kind of think that some simple shots are missing. So I'm going for simple on this day, I think. I just want to do some simple stuff. I might even do some detail macro stuff, but I just want simple, just some simple stuff. So I'm gonna keep shooting, having a blast here on the beach, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to film again today. I think we're going to another location, so I'll probably turn the camera back on. But we have quite a strenuous hike back, as we're hiking back a different way, so it's uphill again with thick sand for about a mile straight up and then finally we get some downhill. So, ooh, that was a good wave. I'm gonna take a shot. Alright, so we finally finished the forever long hike back in the sand. Found this little bridge here on the way back to the car, and there's this nice little this curve. It's kind of a leading line that goes around this little bend, and it kind of reveals these nice trees in the background here, and you can see the trees almost looks like trees in Africa on the savannah. They look like those trees that lions would sleep under. So it's kind of unique to me. I'm going to try to bag this shot. Anything with water in it today is going to be good because the clouds aren't great, and I have 11 stops of filters in front of my lens to block light. So I'm just going to try to use water in every way that I can. And again, I looked at my portfolio the other day and I just thought I needed more simple added to it. I don't really know exactly what that means yet, but I'm starting to figure it out. I don't always have to have these big, huge landscape vistas. You know, just something simple with a nice little leading line curve with some water is beautiful. So I guess, I think for a while it got, and I think this happens to all of us, for a while it can get to where when you're out with a camera, you think so different that you kind of sometimes stop enjoying your surroundings. You're more so thinking through your camera and almost like thinking like a computer. And while that's good, the whole foundation on how we see beautiful things is by just enjoying them, right? I see them with my eyes and I'm enjoying the surroundings in front of me, and then I should build off of that feeling an artistic image. I shouldn't think first with the camera and the settings and all the things and then enjoy it later. So that I think is what simple is going to mean throughout today. I'm just gonna really enjoy my surroundings, and as I enjoy things and see things that are beautiful, then I'll try to build a shot off of that. Number one, it'll challenge my creativity because I had to kind of walk around a little bit before I could set up my tripod to see the perfect spot to shoot from. And not only challenging my creativity, it'll also allow me to have more fun because I'm enjoying myself first, and then just, you know, shooting is kind of a secondary to the day, which we all should do more. So think about that when you're out shooting next time. Don't always, you know, think about the settings and the filters and all these things that you're going to do. Just enjoy yourself outside, and the opportunities will present themselves. So in the form of beautiful locations. So I'm going to set up this shot. It's just going to be f11. I'm going to bracket 3 shots again. Again, I have 11 stops of light blocking my lens, circular polarizer, and a 9-stop ND filter. So now that the techie stuff is over, I'm going to go enjoy myself and take a beautiful photo. Alright, so we went to another state park. We left Camp Helen and we went to Deer Lake State Park. And this one is just a big boardwalk that goes out to the ocean. But all along the boardwalk, you can probably see behind me, there's just tons of sand dunes, like as far as the eye can see. Let me show you over here. So you can see there's a lot of wind. It might be you might have trouble hearing me, but you can see there's all these cool sand formations everywhere, and there's a kind of some cool like bent trees that are kind of growing sideways over there. But what kind of caught my eye, and again, remember today I'm thinking about simple compositions. See that one lonely little tree growing out there in the middle of all the bush? I just think it's kind of a cool subject of interest, and all this sand kind of leading up to it might just make the kind of simple photo that I'm wanting. So I've got a vertical composition going here. Again, you probably can't see too well. I'm going to try to stuff the lens in the viewfinder and see if you can see anything there. I have no clue if you can see anything, but if you can, that is my composition. And basically just vertical shot leading up. Fortunately, there's some kind of cool leading lines, some kind of patterns in the sand that have just been caused by the wind, honestly, and it'll just kind of lead up right to that lonely little tree right out there. So I'm gonna take a couple of shots of that, and I shouldn't need any more than one photograph. I already got my focus point set right on the tree out there. The sand is far enough away to where me shooting at f11, it should be perfectly sharp, everything in focus. So again, simple composition. I have a circular polarizer on. I removed my ND filter, so it's just the circular polarizer, which is kind of bringing the sky down a little bit for me, giving kind of a deeper blue effect, which will be a nice contrast off of the really bright white sand. And I'll give you a little tip here. So if you're going to be shooting in auto exposure mode or auto shutter speed or aperture priority, keep in mind that when the sun is hitting on the white sand, it really fools your camera meter, and it'll actually underexpose the image for you. So you always want to, whenever you're shooting in white sand like this that's reflecting off the sun, you're going to want to overexpose your shot using your exposure compensation dial by about a third to 2/3 of a stop. And the reason is because the camera meter thinks that the white sand is so bright that it's trying to darken the scene because it thinks everything is that bright, but it's just fooling it because it's a bright white sand reflecting off the sun. So just watch your camera meter, watch your histogram and your exposure settings whenever you're shooting with white sand like this. So I'm gonna go take the shot, and I'll talk to you guys in just a minute. So we just finished up the day. We were gone for most of the day. It's about 6:30 now, and we left at around, what, 10 a.m. or something like that. So went to 2 state parks, a few little places in between, a couple of marinas with some big boats. I think I came away with maybe 2 or 3 pictures, which if I came away with 2 or 3 keepers from one day of shooting, that's pretty good. It's funny, if you look at the work of Ansel Adams, one of the most famous photographers of his time, and even still today, he's legendary. He said that as long as he had a harvest, I think, of like 10 images every year, that he considered himself doing good. So it's funny in the age of digital how we worry about getting keepers every single time we go out. So it's okay if you don't get keepers, every single time you intend to. So I think I got 2 or 3 from the day, which is nice, and we're on the way back to meet up with the rest of my family, and we're gonna go and have a nice seafood dinner. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you would like to stay up to date on all of my photography videos and free tutorials, please consider subscribing by clicking on my face. And if you would like to find out more about me and how to improve your photography, visit my website at findingmiddleearth.com.